Men seek fame and glory. For some, by any means, as long as their name lives on. In the ancient world, no fate was worse than to be forgotten. The Greeks found it a fate worse than death itself. Obsessed with legends, the ancient Greeks hoped that they, just as their mythological heroes had, could live on beyond death. Not in life, but in memory. When their shade was lost to the underworld, the memory of glorious deeds would carry on their names. Some sought to be remembered by any means. But one man went far beyond this. If he could not live on in fame, he would live on in infamy. His deeds so horrified the Greeks, they condemned him to something worse than death. Damnatio memoriae. To deny his vain lust for glory, this arsonist's name was banned by religious decree. The deed he dealt upon the city of Ephesus scarred the city by burning its sacred temple. So horrific an action, only total oblivion could be his punishment. Except, no taboo can be forever unbroken. The historian Theopompus of Chios preserved his name in a lost book, or what was likely his name. Some called this mysterious individual Ligdamus. Others, as Theopompus attested, named him Herostratus, a name cursed by the gods. Yet his name survives. If Herostratus was meant to be forgotten, why does his name remain? Long ago, Herostratus' name was banned by religious decree, but it lost power with time, nor were the citizens of Ephesus able to enforce the decree beyond their city. The only thing that could dissuade historians from recording it was the wrath of the gods for speaking the name. While most writers only mention his crimes, Theopompus named the criminal in his lost book the Hellenics, which, while lost, survives in excerpts and references from later Roman writers, who were far less afraid of speaking of this attack on the gods, and the man who performed it. From this, later writers have preserved the name, which survives to this day in English, sometimes as Erostratus, or the more common Herostratus. The name remains, but the punishment placed upon Herostratus destroyed any detail of his life. Beside his name and action, the criminal known as Herostratus is lost to us, as his executioners likely intended. By destroying his name, nothing definite survives on Herostratus beyond it. His life is largely a mystery. What is known is usually conflicting. Herostratus is claimed to be a loner, a man who languished in mediocrity, desperate for fame. He could have been anything from a sailor to a winemaker to a shepherd. It is unknown if Herostratus was even a citizen of Ephesus. His name is Greek, but provides no clues to his origins, though the circumstances of his punishment suggest he was either non-Greek or a former slave, implying Herostratus was at least a foreigner to Ephesus. What does remain of Herostratus is his supposed motivation and the story of his crime. Herostratus' actions were purely self-centered. He had no animosity towards the city of Ephesus or the Temple of Artemis, the crown jewel of the city. Then, so wonderful, it was regarded as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Nor was Herostratus particularly insane. His actions were simply birthed from a vain love of fame. By all accounts, Herostratus was irremarkable and a loser in all respects. Thus, none would remember him after his death. He would suffer a death of mediocre obscurity. Fearing this, he sought any way to be remembered beyond his death. Unable to achieve glory by fame, Herostratus sought it by infamy. In the city of Ephesus, and today what is now Turkey, Herostratus set fire to the legendary Temple of Artemis, setting fire to the wood during the night. The earliest testament of his actions are by the historian Strabo. Strabo writes about the horror of the arson in the geography, but mentions no name. Why was Herostratus' crime so severe? Sacrilege. Arson on a holy temple was an attack on the gods themselves, meaning Herostratus had directly attacked the house of a goddess. Not only that, but the Temple of Artemis, or the Artemisium, as it was known, was the greatest structure of Ephesus. Begun in 550 BC by the architect Chersiphron and his son Metagenes, the temple was an achievement of Ephesus' wealth and the ancient world. It was completed by the architects Demetrius and Paeonius until Herostratus burned it down in 356 BC. A symbol of power and wealth, the temple was dedicated to Artemis. Standing 377 feet long by 151 feet wide, about the size of a football field, the temple was built upon marble columns and decorated with engravings and paintings. supposedly the first Greek temple constructed in marble. Herostratus' crimes destroyed decades of effort and wealth in his own twisted quest for glory. The crime likely occurred on the night of either July 21st or July 26th. What is known for certain is the year, 356 BC. Using oil-soaked rags, Herostratus set fire to these with his lantern to ignite the temple's roof and furnishings. The inferno consumed the temple, leaving only the marble base and pillars. After he had set the fire, Herostratus exited the temple and announced his crimes to the gathering crowd, making sure to take full credit, until he was arrested by the authorities of the city. So brazen and bold were his crimes, Herostratus was punished even beyond the limit of the law. Due to his foreign background, it is possible Herostratus was not protected by the laws of Ephesus, or the severity of his actions was enough just cause. His crime faced extreme punishment. After being arrested, Herostratus was tortured upon the rack, a practice usually only used on slaves, as the Greeks disliked torture. The action was intended to extract a second confession from him or as physical punishment, as Herostratus' crime was an attack upon both civil and religious society. The supposed second confession is a mystery. Why a second confession was needed is unknown. Herostratus admitted to his crime. If necessary, slaves were tortured for testimony, implying Herostratus was probably once a slave. Physical coercion was needed to legitimize his confession or punishment. Even if just a corruption of the original story, Herostratus' actions more than justified both torture and execution to the Ephesians, as, after torture, Herostratus was executed and his body disposed of in an unmarked grave, to make sure he could not enjoy the fruits of his crime. Except, by executing him, the Ephesians had given Herostratus exactly what he desired. He had earned the infamy and notoriety he had desired. Even in death, no matter how brutal, he would live on through his arson, as news of his action would spread across both Greece and Asia Minor. Ancient writers show the news spread widely, as an action of such sacrilege was unheard of. Aristotle mentioned the news in his Meteorologica, and, while he does not name Herostratus, it tells the story was common knowledge. In hopes of destroying Herostratus' name, a religious council of the city-states of Asia Minor, today Turkey, met to discuss the crime. Fearing Herostratus would inspire others to extremism, they posthumously punished Herostratus with the damnatio memoriae, the damnation of memory. Ancient Greeks hoped to prevent Herostratus from being remembered by banning his name, proclaiming both legal punishment and a curse upon anyone who mentioned it. Ironically enough, this gave Herostratus more fame, becoming remembered because he was punished in such a manner, and, to avoid mentioning his name, earned the title Temple Burner, though Ephesus had no way to enforce this ban across the entire Greek world. By folklore, it was upheld until Theopompus of Chios violated the taboo decades later, publishing his name to the public. Tradition held, so people kept it hidden longer out of fear of divine retribution, as years later writers still avoided directly mentioning it. It is through Roman writers, living hundreds of years after, Herostratus' name was preserved, being public knowledge by 200 AD, where he was often invoked as a criminal against the gods equal to those of myth. Even to today, tradition has upheld the nullification of Herostratus' name, as English writers often avoid mentioning it. Geoffrey Chaucer and Lord Byron both invoke Herostratus. Chaucer left him unnamed, and Lord Byron corrupted his name in the Curse of Minerva to uphold the ancient decree. Though, there is another tradition around Herostratus, one that coincides with his action on the night of July 21st or July 26th, in 356 BC. The Greeks often attributed Herostratus' ability to burn the temple due to Artemis not being present. As such, she was not able to defend her temple, then being across the Aegean Sea in the city of Pella, about 725 kilometers away from Ephesus, being in the city to watch over the birth of Alexander the Great. Impossible to prove, but tradition states both events occurred on the same night. As with all ancient history, there is fact and fiction to the theory. The Greeks did enjoy inventing historical ironies, so if the temple did burn as Alexander was born, sits in limbo between fact and fiction. Theory holds it may have been the news of the prince's birth that spurred Herostratus to his actions. While unlikely the news could have spread across the sea that quickly, heralds may have carried it across both Greece and Asia. Herostratus may have set the fire at such a moment to link his own infamy to the newborn Alexander's inborn fame, hoping the portent of the burning temple would forever link him with Alexander the Great, which it did in parallel ways. Herostratus' actions were taken as the omen he may have intended them to be. After its burning, priests claimed the temple's destruction foreshadowed their own and all of Asia's, which would actually come 20 years later with Alexander's conquests. Then, marching through Ephesus, Alexander would come across the still destroyed Temple of Artemis. Work had commenced on rebuilding it in 323 BC, which Alexander offered to fund, but was rejected. The architects claiming, "It would be improper for one god to build a temple to another." Ironically enough, 323 BC would be the last year of Alexander's life. He would die later that year, never seeing the temple that was destroyed at his birth restored in his life, forever linking him and Herostratus through their deeds, death, and eternal ambition, one marching into eternal fame, and the other into eternal infamy. It is ironic Herostratus' shade has survived longer in infamy than the Greek gods or the Temple of Artemis have in fame. The gods would be supplanted by Christianity after the dawn of the new millennium, and the temple would be finally destroyed by the barbarian Goths in 262 AD, tearing away what was left for building materials, and the site would not be rediscovered by archaeologists until 1869, showing destruction casts a far longer shadow than creation, as Herostratus' specter still haunts the world. Escaping attempts to blot out his name and destroy his actions. This haunting infamy has earned Herostratus the title of the First Terrorist, due to his deeds of vainglorious extremism. While Herostratus' face is lost to us, we can definitely see how his image is often reflected in modernity, either in media or memory. Extreme actions performed only to satisfy an unquenchable desire for any form of fame or recognition, earning even the name Herostratic Syndrome or Herostratic Fame. Being a desire for fame even by destructive means, no matter how self-destructive or extreme. I suppose there is a great irony in this video, perpetuating Herostratus' name. Even if I did not name him, I would still fall victim to the infamous Ephesian paradox, a problem Herostratus himself set in motion, as, by removing the criminal's name, one only makes him more remarkable, suggesting there is no definite way to set fire to memory itself. Except, Herostratus only survives by name and action. The rest of the man is lost. He survives only as a hand holding a torch and a lost grave. No great deed or glory illuminates him in such obscurity. He is just that, a name on a lost page. Nothing but a name forever lingering upon the edge of obscurity. Never forgotten, but never fully remembered.